everyone. Welcome to Hearst Castle. My name is Paula and I am going to be your guide today for the next little while we explore the estate. We're going to look at a number of Chinese sculptures in William Randolph Hearst's collection. These particular sculptures, mainly from the 18th and 19th centuries, were fitted as electric lamps in the early 20th century. We're very glad you can all be here with us today and through this series of videos we've been posting on our social media for you. An update, we do remain closed. Museums, visitor centers, and other indoor spaces, that's what's closed right now. All 280 California state parks remain closed to vehicle traffic. We do encourage you to visit those parks, but if you do, please make sure to practice social distancing, wear your masks, and stay safe. And for regular updates, you can go to our website at parks.ca.gov. Before we start having a look at the art, I want to tell you a little bit about the Hearst family history in San Simeon. William Randolph Hearst spent a lot of time on this property, on this hilltop, as a young child. He was just 2 years old in 1865 when his father George Hearst first bought land here. So the family would come down here pretty regularly from their main residence up in San Francisco, and they camped on this hilltop. They called it Camp Hill. That was the Hearst version of camping. So very large tents, raised floors, rugs, staff who would take care of the family while they were here. But as he grew into adulthood, we know that Mr. Hearst started dreaming of building here. His parents wouldn't allow it though. So it wasn't until 1919 that Mr. Hearst inherited the property when his last parent passed away, and that was his mother, Phoebe Apperson Hearst, who died in 1919. Well, he immediately began planning construction with his architect, Julia Morgan, who was the first licensed woman architect in the state of California. Ground was broken in 1920 with 3 small houses on the property. Of the 3, Casa del Monte, to my right, the houses are named for their view. Casa del Monte is House of the Mountain, named for its view of the Santa Lucia mountain range. That small cottage became ready for occupancy first, so it was the first permanent structure where Mr. Hearst and his wife Millicent stayed. Hardstone carving goes way back in Chinese art history, more than 4,000 years ago, but it wasn't until the Qing dynasty that this practice really took off. The Qing dynasty was from about the mid-17th century through the early 20th century, and it took off at that time because of an abundance of raw materials. In Mr. Hearst's collection, the sculptures are carved in both hard and soft stones, an array of stones like turquoise, different kinds of quartz, jade, and in this bedroom, soapstone. These figures, same figure under both lamps, is the one female of the 8 Taoist Immortals. The Immortals were key figures in the Taoist religion and philosophy, and they represented different aspects of nature. This one is named Hashem Gu. She's often depicted with a peach, the divine fruit of the gods, but also, as we see her here, with a lotus blossom. We're going to see her several more times across the estate in rooms from the more opulent of the guest suite, like the Doges, and even on Mr. Hearst's private 3rd floor in the big house. This Dota Suite is one of the more opulent of the guest suites here at the ranch, as Mr. Hearst called it. A number of guests stayed here. At one time, his wife Millicent spent some time in this suite. A doge is an elected ruler at one time from Venice, Italy, and likely that's the reason this suite got its name. There is some Venetian influence in the design work. But what's also here is a rock crystal version of Hashem Gu. Rock crystal is a type of quartz. It's a harder stone, and we see Hashem Gu here once again with her lotus blossom. By the time William Randolph Hearst moved onto his private third floor in the big house in 1928, he and his wife Millicent Hearst had separated, and though they never divorced, they didn't live together after that date. The suites on the estate were standing in Mr. Hearst's bedroom suite. It was not uncommon for wealthy couples to have their own bedrooms in a suite. And on this estate, the suites generally consist of 2 bedrooms joined in the middle by a sitting room. So the women's bedroom, where we're standing, never belonged to Mrs. Hearst. It did belong to Mr. Hearst's girlfriend and companion for more than 35 years, actress Marion Davies. And in her room, we see a rose quartz example of that Taoist immortal. These 2 sculptures are rose quartz. They're another depiction of Hashem Gu, that female Taoist immortal that we saw in Casa del Monte. We don't know the exact age of these sculptures. They are sitting on a metal base with some wooden artwork and under an early 20th century silk lampshade. Of all of the sculptures in Mr. Hearst's collection, my very favorite is in this bedroom, carved out of turquoise. This little sculpture in vibrant blue creates a scene of mirth and general happiness. It features 2 women holding a ceremonial fan and fly whisk, and they're accompanied by a laughing child. This is 19th century, and again, it's on a wood and bronze base with a silk lampshade. There's a little amethyst finial that's hard to see in this light, but that stone at the top, you're kind of seeing a silhouette of it, but that's an amethyst. Zhang Guolao was one of 2 Taoist immortals who was a real historical figure. He's often shown holding a fish drum and a stick of bamboo with dried fish skin stretched over one end. This figure is 19th century carved carnelian on a metal base, silk shade with a carnelian finial at the top. Carnelian is a type of quartz. These 18th century carved jade birds are the Chinese phoenix. That's a mythological bird usually depicted with long tail feathers and a rooster-like head. These sit on a teak wood and gilt metal base under a lampshade. This room is one of the cloister rooms. There are 4 on the estate. They're smaller spaces. next to a covered walkway. And that's what a cloister is, a covered walkway that runs alongside a building. Individual guests may have stayed here. Employees for William Randolph Hearst may have stayed here. So his writers, he had a media empire, news reporters, editors. And in this particular cloister room is the Jade sculpture of the Chinese goddess of compassion, Guanyin. Everyone, thank you so much for visiting us here today at Hearst Castle and joining me on this tour. And though we couldn't see you in person, we do hope that everything's back to normal soon and that we will see you at Hearst San Simeon State Historical Monument.